Okay, cool.
All right, and we are live. So
Perfect.
I think we're live now. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna give it a few minutes for people to start joining us, okay? And like I said,
Okay.
we are live on Facebook and then as well as YouTube as well. So I'm just
Okay.
gonna take 2 seconds to go ahead and tag other groups and stuff like that so they can join in. Do you want to go ahead and do the same?
Yes, I'm actually trying to see. Let me see. Yeah, let me see. Mm, yeah.
I'm excited about this. I see we
Me
have a couple of
too.
viewers on too. So, hi everyone. I am Tawanda Burks. I'm not sure where many of you are tuning in from because we are live on Facebook as well as YouTube. And if you know me, you know I do not go live at all. So, we're going to see how this goes with the amazing Selena Ball. So, let's just go ahead and start. We actually have three series
Yes.
throughout the month. So, we
Mhm.
are celebrating Women Histories Month. And I wanted to sit down with Selena and have a conversation about the amazing work that she is doing, not just in her community, I feel like across the world. So let's just start with the introduction.
Okay. Hi everyone. To those who are tuning in, thank you for tuning in. Of course, my name is Selena Ball. I am an author. I am a CEO, and I'm just a regular woman who is. I'm just allowing God to lead me. I'm allowing Him to take me and order my steps. So I don't really want you guys to think that I'm like this extraordinary person. I'm an ordinary person who follows an extraordinary God, and so there you have it. And once again, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. I would argue with you. I'm like, you're amazing. You are extraordinary. You do some amazing things. Let's start with your book. I've read the book. I would recommend to anyone to read it. I mean, from the very first page, I was like, ooh,
Wow.
yeah, just a lot of shock and wow factors. But as I was getting through it, it was almost like walking in your steps a little bit.
Mm.
Tell us a little bit about that. And I know one of the series we'll talk fully about the book itself, but just kind of wanted to warm up some of the viewers about your ability to write and to tell your story as well.
Okay, that's a great question because I'm sure it's a lot of people out there who want to write their book and they don't really know where to start. Well, first let me put you guys at rest with that. I didn't know where to start either. This was my very first book. Not only just my very first book, but this was the very first book that I was writing for me to be a open book for everyone, for the world, to be transparent, to be vulnerable, to be honest. And so when I started the process of writing the book, what helped me to, if I be completely honest, was number one, I heard from God. Something about when you hear the Lord tell you something, it gives you a little bit more confidence, like, okay, Lord. So in 2014, the Lord had spoke to me and the Lord said, I'm going to make you an author. And so I always kept that in the back of my head. Like, wow, you're going to make me an author. The only writing that I had done prior to hearing the Lord tell me that was just me journaling. I would journal, I would write poems. And those was mainly the only writing. I didn't really see my writing as a gift or a talent. I saw it more as therapy and an outlet. And so fast forward, um, when it was as God spoke to me and I had that in the back of my mind, um, I was I had the opportunity. The Lord opened up an opportunity for me to take some writing courses, and there I was able to kind of discover some of my talents and discover some of my gifts and play around with writing and challenge myself when it came to writing because sometimes we can not necessarily believe in ourselves and we can write safe. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to write safe. I wanted to write bold. I wanted to write honest. I wanted to write in a way that when my readers read whatever it is that I'm writing, they can feel the emotions. And that was really important to me. So the writing course gave me the room to do that. And then I began to start taking it. The very first thing that I did was this, and everyone's process will look different. But I thought about the significance of my journey. I thought about, okay, I was sentenced to 8 years in prison. I'm going to make my book 8 chapters.
Okay.
I thought about what I wanted each chapter to look like, what I wanted how I wanted it to build up. So I came up with the name of my chapters before I even started writing. I came up with the number of chapters that I would have before I even started writing. And then that helped me have a guide to writing. And some people will tell you when you get into writing to know your audience. I didn't even stress myself with that. I didn't want to be bothered with know my audience. I just know that the Lord said he was going to make me an author. I knew that I had to be obedient and write this book. And I knew that I was going to allow God to choose my audience. And that's what I did.
So without you choosing who your audience was, and you just kind of wrote, like you said, each chapter based off each year that you was sentenced to prison, how would you define what your audience looks like now after you published your book? Like, do you have a certain market or target market that naturally attracts to your book or your writings?
Listen, I really have to give God all of the honor, all of the glory, because I have teenagers that are reading my book who connects with my book. In fact, a young lady that I'm mentoring right now, her mother expressed to me that she's read my book a few times, and she's only 14. I've had men read my book. I've had women read my book. So I would just say a wide range, a variety of people, blacks, whites, that has read my book. And I think, well, I'm going to say this. I know one thing that we as a human race have in common is pain. Pain. All of us have endured some level of pain. All of us have endured some level of trials and tribulations, some level of a dark place, not depression, but just sometimes feeling defeated, sometimes feeling overwhelmed. All of us have been in that place before. I call that the valley. And some of us have also experienced the mountaintop. So I knew that either way, people would connect. I knew that God would minister to people through the book. I wanted to, when I was writing, I wanted to be honest about my story, but I also wanted to leave a lot of room for the Lord to do the communicating. So I allow God to flow through my words and flow through my story, that he may reach the reader, that he may reach my audience. And that's what I did.
What do you think? I understand that God played a lot into you helping you craft this book. But what led you to write this particular story based off the time that you were sentenced compared to, I'm sure you had a lot of other stories, throughout your life. But what led you to write about that time frame?
The reason why I chose that time frame is because that was my rock bottom. That was my rock bottom. And I knew when you hit your rock bottom, for some people don't necessarily have an awakening, but I had an awakening. And I said, how did I get here? What happened along the way in my life that landed me here? And so I began to really dig deep, right? So what really inspired me to write the book, number one, was obedience. I knew that my healing and my breakthrough was through me writing this, because I knew that it was bigger than me. So obedience. And then number two is that I didn't want anybody else telling my story. The news had already told their version of my story. They had already written articles. People were already putting out a narrative. And I wanted to tell my own story. from my own perspective and from the truth of what took place on the inside, me being on the inside, not a lot of people on the outside speculating, coming up with rumors and spreading gossip. So I just really wanted to also use that as an opportunity to not only minister to people, to draw people closer to Christ, to encourage people and heal people, but to also give people insight on this is what happened.
Right, right. So you journal each chapter and you complete your novel,
Mm-hmm.
your book. What was the next step for you after you completed this, not knowing where to start, how to publish, or any of this? What path did you take?
Okay, so I reached out to a publisher. And the first thing that connected me with this particular individual was that he was from Chicago and he had an amazing story himself, an amazing testimony himself. And so I connected with him, but he said something that really turned me off. Okay. So, and this is what I want to say to the readers. When you are choosing your publisher, you have to understand what works for you. Don't just jump into the first person who can sell you a dream or anything. And because what he said to me, he said, I make best-selling offers. And that was what blocked him from me hiring him to be my publisher, because I didn't want anybody to get the glory but God. I didn't want him to be able to say I made her a best-selling author. I wasn't going to allow that space.
Right.
I don't even take the glory for writing the book. I give all the glory to God, you know? And so that turned me off. And I just said, no, I can't. I don't want him to take what is so precious to me and then think about it from a dollar sign perspective. Don't get me wrong. When you write a book, you definitely want to see a return back on your investment. But it was bigger than that for me, and it was deeper than that for me.
Right.
And so I had 3 chapters written, and it was really God ordained how I met Crown Jewel Publishing.
Okay.
I met that publishing company, the CEO of that publishing company, through a friend of mine. And it was crazy because I was scrolling through social media and I saw that my friend had posted that she was publishing, that she was going to become a published author. And immediately, and I called her and I said, hey, who's publishing your book? And she had nothing but great things to say about Shamiracle J. Bell. She was like, oh my God, listen, you have to connect with her. She is awesome. She loves the Lord. She's a midwife. She birthed out books. This is what she do. And I had one phone call with Shamiracle. I think I stayed on the phone with her for about an hour. She was answering all of my questions. She was not rushing me. She took her time with me and she cared about everything. She cared about the process. She cared about my concerns, my feelings. She wanted to handle my story with so much care and so much attentiveness. And that's how I end up choosing her.
Okay, so you chose her as a publisher, and this is for those that, like I said, that I know will be tuning in later or watching the replay that has content. And so, I mean, you were fortunate to kind of get this connection with a publisher, right? So, do you know what the process is for individuals that has content? Is the goal to just kind of submit your scripts that you already have, or do you even know what she recommends aside from you having that connection already?
Well, you have, the good thing is it's so many options out there when it comes to publishing. The number one, before my book even went through the publishing process, it went through an editing process. Some people may not want their book edited. Some people may not necessarily care about that. I wanted mine to go through an editing process, and editing is a different fee from publishing, 2 different entities, right? And so you don't have to have it edited. It's completely up to you. I know an individual who self-published his book, did no editing, and the book done phenomenal. And it wasn't, I read the book was really good, and it wasn't a well-written book at all, but the message was powerful. And
Right.
so, and his book has done phenomenal. It's opened up so many doors for him, so many speaking engagements. So
Mm-hmm.
editing may not necessarily be everybody avenue that they want to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So you can self-publish,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so many different options out there when it comes to self-publishing.
Yeah.
You do it by uploading your manuscript and everything like that. I
Mm-hmm.
know Amazon now offers self-publishing as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you can find an agent who would sell your book to publishing companies.
Mm-hmm.
I know a friend of mine who went that route. She has an agent. In fact, she just wrote her second book, and she used the same agent, and they pitched to the same publishing company.
Okay.
Or you can find a publishing company yourself, get in
Okay.
contact with them, and go from
So
there.
do the
Different avenues.
publishing company, within the publishing company, do they provide agents as well to work on your behalf, or is that something completely different?
You would just have to call because every publishing company is
It's
different.
different. Okay.
Um, I would say, I don't really want to answer that because I'm not necessarily
Okay.
sure. But
Sure.
I will say that if you're thinking about an investment, and I want to speak to the individuals right now who may say, I really want to publish my book, but I don't have a whole lot of money
Mm-hmm.
to spend. So I want you to think about this. When you get an agent, that's money. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going through the editing process, that's money. When you go through the um, publishing process, that's money. When you get ready to do promotion, that's
Mm-hmm.
money. So
Mm-hmm.
just kind of have that in mind as far as what you want to do when it comes to publishing. If you don't necessarily have the money to get an agent, don't use your money to get an agent. You may be able to put that money somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
and do that. And then you also want to make sure that whoever you choose, that you want to ask questions about: will they do the graphics for your cover? Will
Mm-hmm.
they do will they help with the promoting? So let me tell you, me going through Crown Jewel Publishing, Shamirical J. Bell took a lot off of my shoulders. Okay, she did my book cover. I gave her my idea. She brought it to life. Even if I didn't have an idea of what I wanted, I am more than confident that she would have still done a phenomenal job because she's gifted in that area as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I didn't have to worry about that. She also, what came with the package that I signed up for, also came with a author's interview to get the promotion going, to get the marketing going, to let people know, hey, we got a new author on the scene. This is what you can
Mm-hmm.
look forward to with the book.
Right.
And we went through that. And then from there, she continued to promote and market everything. So she took a huge weight
Mm-hmm.
off of me.
Yeah.
And she also coached me through how to continue to do my own marketing and promoting.
Okay. How would you how would you describe after you got your book published? Um, how would you describe what life was like now that your book is in print? The
Mhm.
world can read your story, your journey. Um, how did you feel? How would you describe that?
Another individual close to me asked me that very same question. In fact, it was at my book release celebration, and they asked, how do you feel? And I said, I just feel good that I was obedient.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just grateful that I was obedient in that moment. And so I feel, I feel relieved. I feel free.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like God has saw fit for me to carry such a powerful testimony that's helping other people and touching other people and ministering to other people. So I feel honored
Mm-hmm.
to be the one that he chose. Now, when I was going through the process,
Yeah.
meaning the storm that I had to go through, I didn't feel honored at all. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like I was blessed. I'm like, I'm cursed,
Mm-hmm.
but coming out on the other side and seeing the beauty of it all, I feel honored to know that God saw fit to choose me.
So those that have read your book and shared feedback, have they shared how it impacted them as well?
Oh
I know you
God.
mentioned that you mentor, you mentor some youth and things like that. I guess the question I have is those that not necessarily went through the same process or experience as you, but those that has had life-changing moments or situations, and they want to
Mhm.
tell their story. Um,
Mhm.
what would you say? What would you say is the biggest thing is that makes it so important that they must share this story? Because again, a lot of times people are going through same or similar situations, and
Mhm.
hearing it from someone else can really make a difference and have them change their lives as
Mhm.
well. So how would you encourage those that want to publish, want to tell their stories, but um, again, that other side of it, being afraid of
Mhm.
being put out there for the world to hear it.
So what I would say to them is this: I understand the fear, but I'm going to let every aspiring author know this: people are going to judge you. They're going to talk about you. They're going to ridicule you. They may even ostracize you. But those are the individuals that your story is not for. Your story is for the ones that's going to grab a hold to it and connect with it and say, thank you for being so vulnerable and so bold and so honest to and sharing your story, because your story helped me. I can relate. Those are the people you're going to have to keep your eyes on. Those are the people that you're doing this for. Everybody is not going to receive us with open arms, and you have to be okay with that. You cannot allow fear to stop you from transitioning into something amazing. You don't know what writing your story may unlock for you. Even if it's not your story, maybe it's a novel. You don't know what writing that novel may unlock for you. Think about some of the authors who may have had, they said, you know what, I'm not going to write that book. Their stories may not have never made it to the big screen. You don't know where God will take you and how far up you will go. You cannot allow people, because if you let people now at this season in your life stop you from doing something that you feel deep down in your spirit that you should be doing, then you will be paralyzed for the rest of your life by the opinion and the fear of what people will say and think. You can't worry
Yeah,
about
I love that. You're very inspirational. Not ordinary at all. When you started off, I'm this ordinary woman. You are not. You are very inspirational.
it. Thank
But
you.
what inspires you? What
Oh
inspires you?
man. Um, my God. What inspires me? Women. Women
Mhm,
inspires me. Children inspires me. The world inspires me. I am an advocate at heart. I'm an activist at heart. I'm a humanitarian at heart. The world inspires me to step up and be bold and step up and be courageous and step up and say, you know what, I'm not just going to give up on life because somebody is counting on me, somebody is watching me. So the word people, people inspire,
mhm,
events, circumstances inspire me. And
mhm.
but number one, my Heavenly Father inspires me. When I hear His voice and when I hear Him speak to me, that inspires me beyond anything else that I just said. So, yeah.
Mhm. And that's a lot of inspiration too, right? And as women, we tend to take all this in, right?
Mhm.
How do you balance all of that? How do you
Oh,
balance it
goodness.
all? That's a lot. I mean, because myself find myself in those situations where, the people being activists and all of these things, right?
Mhm.
And you feel like you can contribute to these things, right?
Mhm.
And serve. But at the end of the day, you realize that was a lot. So how do you balance all of that? And then how do you take time for yourself?
And that's you just answered my question. I balance it by taking time, by knowing my limits. I'm not God. And we have to understand that we're human. we're not God. There are some things that we absolutely will not be able to do. And there's some things that the Lord does not want us to do. So pulling back, turning off the phone, getting off of social media, and just saying, you know what, I am taking this moment for me because I need to replenish and I need to refill myself and I need to quiet my mind, my soul, and everything that I can continue to be inspired, that I can continue to be strong to help others because we're still human. I'm still human at the end of it all. And so, and I also do a lot of praying. I pray a lot, and that helps. That helps tremendously.
And I see that your faith is very important, and it
Mhm,
sounds like it's first and foremost above
mhm,
everything.
mhm.
Prior to you hitting rock bottom, was your faith as big as it is now, or
No.
you want to talk a little bit about that and what that journey is like for those that could be struggling in the moment right now with not having that connection or lost that connection with their faith or reality?
Yes. No, my face was not at all, could not compare to the way it is now. Before hitting rock bottom, I would probably say I had little to no face. Um, I knew that it was something nudging at my heart, but I didn't quite know what it was. But so no, I live life on autopilot. I live life in a state of fear. I live life being very stagnant. I live life not necessarily always knowing the clear path that I'm traveling, just kind of um, taking risks, but not necessarily from a faith standpoint, but from a standpoint of I can't fail. I don't want to be a failure. So I have to do something. So I
Right.
live life being afraid of failing.
Mm,
When failure, we have to change the way that we see failure.
hmm hmm
Because when you are afraid to fail, you can't challenge yourself. You're not,
Right.
sometimes the lesson is in the failure.
Exactly.
Sometimes the discovery is in the failure.
Exactly.
All the nuggets and the treasure is in the failure. And
hmm
so, I see failure different now. I'm not afraid of it.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the way we learn and be able to grow.
Yeah.
If we jump back to the publishing part of things, what would you consider for those that are interested in publishing their very first book? What would you say are some of the red flags um, when looking for a publisher? I know you mentioned already about the experience you had with the individual saying that he could make you a bestseller, right? So to you, that was I would call it a red flag or something that
Right.
just
For
didn't
me,
sit right
yes.
with the spirit. But what other things do you recommend or you would say those are red flags when you're um, looking for a publisher?
I would say someone that is like a fast talker.
Mhm,
They're talking so fast and they're taking you so fast and they don't want to slow down to truly walk you through the process. Someone that is really short with you. They act as if they don't have a lot of time to answer your questions.
mhm,
I would say someone that, because nowadays we have a lot of people who kind of want to do things via email. Me personally, I'm going to stay away from that.
mhm,
I want to be able to talk to you. If I have to do a video consultation with you, I need to be able to see the individual. Someone that you can't have access to what they've done, their portfolio, what they've
mhm,
published, or any of that. You can't find anything on them. I
mhm,
would say also a red flag when it comes to publishing is someone that doesn't necessarily want to handle your story with top priority.
mhm,
If they're making you feel like I got too many projects, whatever other projects they have, that has nothing to do with you. You want them
mhm,
to be able to handle yours with top priority.
mhm. Okay. Is it was that a lengthy process for you from the moment you connected with your publisher to your book available for purchase? What
Okay,
was
so I
that?
connected with her in January of last year, 2022. She gave me a deadline, and that was another thing that I loved about her. That accountability. Like when we did our consultation, she let me know up front. She said, "Listen, I am big on deadlines. Meet your deadline. We're not pushing back. What is the date that you want your book out? Fine. I need at this date. I need your manuscript." And I
Mhm.
love that about her because she was a stickler. A stickler about that, and it put
Right.
the pressure on me to make sure that I met my deadline. So by March, she had my manuscript, and by June, it was published.
That was fast.
Yeah,
That was fast. And then you started the marketing and being out there, the
yeah,
book
yep,
signings and all that amazing things.
yep.
So, like you said, other things happen. So your story's out there. People are
Mhm.
reading it. It opens up
Mhm.
more doors. I don't want to
Definitely.
share what's next for you. Do you want to talk about what's next for you? I've been seeing some amazing things on your Facebook. So what's next for you?
Oh my
Is
goodness.
it a book two? Is it a
Listen,
another
everybody has
adventure?
already been asking about book two. They like, hey, listen, book two. I've had someone say book two is the bestseller. I will say that there will be many more books.
Okay, good.
Many more books on a range of topics. And so book two will probably not come for another, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to say another couple years, only because now God has me on a different project. So I'm going to continue to share my story from book one, work on the projects that God have me on. And when the Lord say, now is time
Hmm.
to birth book two, then I'll start on book two.
And right now you're living that experience for book two, right? Or no?
I would have to say absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's everything now. Everything since, you
Absolutely.
yeah, since you wrote book one and what you're doing now is part of book two. So we are looking forward to that. Um,
Definitely. And it'll be the same level of transparency, the same level of honesty. And so absolutely, yes. It probably won't be as lengthy as book one, but
mhm.
it will be, I'm gonna make sure that it's nice and juicy for the readers.
I think what you do. All right, so to you, book one was lengthy, or
For some people who may not be readers like that, that could be
oh, okay.
pretty lengthy for them. For me, it's not. Because
Okay,
I
I was
enjoy
gonna say.
reading. I enjoy reading
Okay, I
too.
thought it was a nice size. I loved it, and I
Yeah.
told you, like from page one, I was just like, ooh, ooh. So I was up late many of nights,
Uh-huh.
but well worth the read. Well worth the read. So
Mhm.
I let me see. I had a couple more questions. Basic stuff, and I'll get to that at the end.
Okay.
Um, yeah, those. I feel like you got to give us some teasers because we have the other discussions that are coming up, right? We're going to do a full
Yes.
book discussion, and then
Yes,
we're
we
also
will.
going to do a discussion on, um, I think it was faith. Let me go back. I just want to make sure that I'm calling out the right discussions here.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one, we're going to talk about your journey and the book discussion. And then the last one is going to be faith and purpose driven, correct? So
Yes.
it's totally up to you. Because what I would love is for people to be able to purchase your book if they don't have it already and read that so that when we meet again, we can have that discussion and talk more deeply on your journey. So, would love for you to give us a little bit of teaser about what that book is about.
Okay, so the teaser that I'm going to give is that um I lived my life on both sides of the law. One side being in the criminal justice field and the criminal justice department, and the other side as an inmate. And the connecting individual that led me from one side of the law to the other side of the law was my probationer. A romantic relationship that I started with my probationer that led me to 8 years of federal prison time. And so a lot. I talk about a lot about that relationship, what it looked like. I talk about some of the trauma with that, but I wanted to be very clear when I was sharing that part of my story that I take full responsibility, because it's easy to point the finger, it's easy to place the blame, but there is no growth in blame.
Mm-hmm.
There's only
Mm-hmm.
growth and accountability. And so it was important for me to take the accountability. So I put the mirror up on myself in that book. And so you guys will be able to travel the journey of an individual who worked in the criminal justice department, ended up in an inappropriate romantic relationship with her probationer, and then ended up with several federal felony charges that cost me a lot, but also in the end is now giving me a lot. So yeah, that's the
Perfect.
teaser.
All right, I got a lot of questions because, like I said, I already read it, so I can't wait for that discussion because I already got my notes ready for that one. Now, though, if we flip your book published, and we'll talk about that more at our next discussion.
Mhm.
Um, Convicted felon,
Yeah.
published author,
Yes.
business owner.
Yes.
How has that impacted, especially the business part? Has there been any barriers for you because you have this conviction, owning your own business, being an author? Or can you talk a little bit more about that, or provide some type of insight for those that want to start a business that has prior convictions as well?
Okay, so this is what I would tell to those who have experienced incarceration. Use that as your leverage. Take what was meant to destroy you, to destroy your life, to destroy your character, to destroy how the society see you and receive you, and use it as leverage. Use it to your advantage. And that's what I decided. I had already made that decision before I got out of prison, that that's what I was going to do. I remember saying, nobody knew who I was until I made headlines. Now I'm going to use that platform to glorify God and to change lives. So when I think about it, the platform was given to me by way of my prison sentence. Use that to your leverage, but stay humble in the process. Stay wise in the process while doing so. Also, I was very adamant about not allowing labels to be placed on me. Um, when it comes to, because that can have, when if you're wearing it, if you're wearing convicted felon, you're gonna behave like a convicted felon. You're gonna think like a convicted felon.
Yeah.
The government called me a convicted felon, but I was an individual that was convicted of a felony.
Mm. It's a
I'm
big
not, I
difference.
don't,
Yeah.
so I don't wear the labels. I don't
Yeah.
live my life as a
Mm-hmm.
convicted felon. I don't live my life as someone who's been to prison. I don't
Mm-hmm.
even connect with individuals. I didn't live my life like that prior to prison. So
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't going to come home and live my life like that
Mm-hmm.
post prison. So you got to
Mm-hmm.
be careful. We have to be careful of the labels. And even outside of prison, if
Yeah.
you've been in a relationship that caused you to, you were a battered woman. You don't want
Mm-hmm.
to wear those. We don't want to wear those tight. Wear the scars, because the scars is
Right.
cool. That's a part of our story. But we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to wear those titles. You're not
Right.
a battered woman. You're not a battered woman. You was a woman that was battered by a man, but now you are a woman that's going to use that platform to help other battered.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so just flipping it around. Yeah.
Right. And that matters too, because you know that whole mindset thing, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, if you call yourself that, you're gonna behave like that as well. You know, have that
Definitely.
mentality as well. But it
Definitely.
is great that you able to make that disconnection of how you
Mhm.
proceed in life. But there's a lot of people, and especially people of color, you know, that
Yeah.
is stuck in that mentality. How
Yeah.
would you encourage them? And you just gave some wonderful feedback, but how would you encourage them um, to change that mindset? How do you encourage them to, if they're, they believe in a higher power, to reconnect
Mhm.
there, and change that mindset? Because that can be hard. Like you say,
That
even
can
like
it can
about a
definitely
woman,
be. Mhm.
abused woman and things like that. Like, how do you even encourage and promote, hey, you're better than that. You're not
Yeah.
labeled this. You can do better, all of those things.
It's definitely it's a process and it's a journey because I didn't I tell people that I wasn't like I didn't always have the mindset that I have now. But before I get into that, I do want to take a moment to answer your question, and I want to in this moment speak specifically to men because black men in general, but specifically black men, because
Mhm.
unfortunately, a black woman can go to prison and come home and have it a lot more easier than a black man that's been to prison. And
Mhm.
so when it comes to black men, I would encourage the man to number one know that it's okay to go and get the help that you need to recover from prison. When you come out of prison, PTSD is real.
Mhm.
It is totally real, especially depending on your experience, depending on what you've been through. And so, and a lot of men, they just come home and then they just go, some of them, they try to figure out a different route. And some of them
Mhm.
go right back to what they know that's best. So for the
Mhm.
men, if you've been there, and I wanna speak to the ones who does not want to get caught up in this whole recidivism.
Mhm.
Sometimes, and I know this is hard, and sometimes we have to disconnect. We have to disconnect from certain individuals, certain places that can
Mhm.
cause us to go back to prison, that can cost us
Mhm.
our freedom again. Then we have to be vulnerable enough to connect with because it's people that's waiting and willing that want to reach out and help. They want to reach out and help you. They want to reach out and be a blessing to you.
Mhm.
Open your heart to be able to receive those individuals because for men it's a lot of pride.
Mhm.
Sometimes they don't want to be seen as a charity case. They don't want to be feel like they're taking a handout, especially if it's a man that's a dominant man that's
Right.
used to having his own. But
Mhm.
it's you're gonna have to embrace humility, and
Yeah.
it's power in being humble. You're gonna have to
You said
embrace it.
something.
Hmm.
You said something that's interesting to me, and I would love to know more about that. You said that for women, it's a lot easier
Yes.
than it is for men. Would
Oh,
you talk a little bit about that? Is it more resources available for women, that was recently released from prison compared to men, or is it more because the men that doesn't want to use the resources available?
well, it's definitely a lot of it's a lot of resources for women um, than it is for men. That's number one.
Okay.
Secondly, um, we live in a world where society is more willing to be forgiven,
Hmm.
to forgive women, and to give women a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance, and to work with women versus men, especially black men. Black
Hmm.
men they already have like this negative image portrayed about them. So the
Hmm.
moment they get in trouble, they're instantly you're a threat,
Hmm.
and your crime may be a nonviolent crime, but you're still seen as a threat because of the color of your skin. And
Right.
it's harder to get people to trust you versus women. We can, dress up and look professional and go out and get something decent.
Hmm.
Men, they have to work twice as hard, especially, and I keep putting emphasis on black men because that's just facts. It's just the fact that the black men, they have it very hard and they have to work twice as hard than
Hmm.
we do to get ahead of the stigma of being a convicted felon.
Hmm. That's interesting. I never thought about that either.
Yeah.
Um, Especially with the women, and then, getting the second, the third, and fourth, chances again. At
Mhm.
some point, do you feel like to a certain extent, because it's women and they're getting all these multiple chances, do you feel like to a certain extent it's enabling those that are constantly um, given chances because they know
Yeah.
or feel like they're going to be lenient in the situation?
Well, it's different reasons. Sometimes it can be that's all they know.
Mhm.
When I was incarcerated, I met women where it was the grandmother there, the mother there, like 3 or 4 generations.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
sometimes that's just all that they know,
yeah.
and they don't know anything else. And
Mhm.
so you got some women, they go to prison and they're spending their entire prison sentence still doing criminal activity. But
Mhm.
um, going back to your question, as far as the criminal justice or the judicial system willing to give women chance after chance after chance, I'm not really sure why that is. Why a woman will probably get more chances than a man would.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Maybe because we're seen as less of a threat, or we're seen as a population that can be rehabilitated versus men. And then there are things that transpire in male prisons that does not happen in female prisons.
Right, right.
We're not having gang fights.
Mhm.
Does fights happen? Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Don't get me
but not the
wrong,
magnitude of
absolutely.
men. Yeah.
But with the men, they got gang fights and they have a whole lot going on. It's a lot more dangerous with men, and
Mhm.
so
I'm telling you,
I
I,
don't
I got the I got the questions. I'm ready.
know.
I'm ready for that one. So I'm gonna put the link up there again for your
Mhm.
book. I've decided from shackles to solace, and it's on. I know this is Amazon, correct? I believe
Yes,
that's the
it's
link,
on
Amazon.
Amazon.
So
Absolutely.
I would love for you to purchase the book so that when we meet again at the next live, we can have that good discussion about Selena's journey as well as the book discussion as
Mhm.
well. I offer you the opportunity to kind of talk about whatever it is you would like to talk about as it relates to, business book,
Mhm.
publishing or anything that you want to talk to those that are currently online now or will come back and watch the replay. What would you say?
What I want to say is, prior to going to prison, I played it safe. I played it very safe. Okay. Um, what I want to do, I want to encourage every viewer, everyone that's listening, that if there is something that just continue to lay on your heart, a dream, a goal, a project, anything that it just will not leave you, it follows you everywhere you go. Step out on faith and trust God and do it. I don't have all the answers. I don't even know the next door that I'm going to be going through. Right now, the Lord has a project that He has blessed me and my business partner with, and we are walking this thing out on faith to the very end, from beginning to end. We don't know everything that's going to take place with the Faith Academy, but we do know that we're going to walk this thing out with our faith at the forefront and with God at the forefront, trusting God. Um, and I just want to encourage you, you can do the same. If you want to go back to school, start researching the school. Take the first step in doing so. If you want to, if you're an artist and you just want to paint, just start somewhere. The baby steps matter, but do not let your dream die with you. Don't let it die with you, because one day all of us are going to be called home. And you want to be able to leave your footprint in the earth for
Mhm.
somebody else. Don't let it die with you, because you have something special down on the inside of you that is just waiting to be birthed. Take the first step.
Take the first step. I love it. You have to. You have
You
to.
have to.
How can people reach you aside from purchasing your book?
You all can reach me via Facebook, Selena, Miss Dip, and I have to go in and change my settings. So be patient with me, because apparently I have it set up where you can only send me a friend request as if you're friends with a friend of mine. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to
Okay.
change that because I want to be able to have individuals, men, women, girls, boys, to be able to connect with me if that's what they desire to. So you can send me a message through Messenger. You can email me, Selena, Selena, Ball, at yahoo.com. You can email me that way. Yes, and you can even follow me on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram much, but I'm going to do better with building up my content on Instagram. So I'm available, and anyone that want to connect with me, I'm here.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. And like I said, I personally can't wait to have the discussion. That's the meat of it to me. So I am looking forward to talking with you more. And I believe our next discussion is on the 16th at 7
Yes,
p.m.
at
So we'll just
17.
go live again on the same platforms. We'll leave this video up in case, those that watch the replay have questions for you and you could just chime in on the discussion. Thank you so much, Selena. I really appreciate your time this evening. Thank
No,
you.
thank you. This has been awesome. I'm honored, and you are so beautiful. So thank
Oh,
you. I've
thank
enjoyed this
you.
with you.
Thank you. We got to connect. We'll connect again for sure. We'll see you soon,
Absolutely.
okay? Take
Yes,
care.
ma'am. You too. Bye.
Okay.